You'll need a glue gun, a wooden dowel, an X-Acto knife, round wooden toothpicks, some pliers to cut with, some fake snow if you have, white and brown paint, clear liquid glue, some paint brushes, and hobby grass or static grass. First, you want to cut your wooden dowel down to size, so we made a little notch in it with the X-Acto knife, and then we just sawed away at it until we could snap it in half. We are doing two different sizes, one large scale and one small scale, so you can see the differences. Take your utility knife now and cut away or chip away at the very tip of the tree. So that's going to be your top piece of the tree, and you want to just angle it down and then sand it to smooth it off. Now we're taking a glue gun and we're just gluing to the base of our tree, and we're just doing it on a piece of cardboard so it's easy to peel off. This will be how your tree is able to stand on its own, so you want a nice big base for it. Your base does not have to be perfect in any way. We're going to cover it and make it look a little more natural anyways. So let it sit and harden, and then once you've got your bases ready to go, then you're going to want to paint. So we're making our own stain at home, which is just by mixing paint with some water, and we're doing a brown color for the trunk of the tree. So here you can see we just mixed the water and paint together. You mix it really good. You can make it darker or lighter than we did, and then you just want to apply it to your wooden dowel. And it might look a little something like this. Yours might be darker or lighter. Now we're just putting white paint on the very base to make it look like snow. And now we're peeling it off, which we should have done before painting, but whatever works. So we used our utility knife to just make cuts around it, and then we peeled it off the cardboard. And eventually you should get it off. Then you can just peel the remaining cardboard off the bottom, and you should be good to go. Now, if you do have fake snow, which we just bought this from a hobby store, this is the time to use it. You want to just take a paintbrush, dip it in, and add it to the base. And this just gives it more texture and makes it a little more snow-like. But if you don't have it, that's totally okay. You definitely do not need it. So this is what it looks like finished, which we think just adds a nice little touch to it. So before we get any further, for those of you who don't have textured snow or anything like that, you can actually make your own stuff if you'd like. You basically just grab a bunch of sawdust, and if you don't have any at home, sometimes you can go to hardware stores and just ask for some. And you just mix whatever paint color you want with it. So in this video I did green, you could do a white or whatever else you wanted. You bake it, let it dry out, and then you can put it through a strainer to make it really fine, or you don't have to if you like it a little bigger. And then what you can do is put a fine layer of glue on whatever you want it on and just sprinkle it on top. Anyways, so now you want to paint all your toothpicks brown. These will be your branches. So we just did a whole bunch at once and let them dry really quickly. Now you want to take your pliers and you want to snip off the ends of your toothpicks, and as you go through your toothpicks you want a whole bunch of one size, and then they slowly get smaller. And the reason being is that's what a pine tree actually looks like. The longest branches are on the bottom and it slowly gets smaller as you go to the top. So now we are hot gluing our toothpicks onto the wooden dowel or the trunk. This is definitely the most time-consuming part. I think we did this over multiple hours over a few days, so if it takes you just as long, you're not doing anything wrong. And here are our two trees with all their branches on. And I did end up trimming the smaller trees' branches just to equal them out a little better. Here we are separating all the static grass before we get started. It's much easier to do that because it comes in clumps. So we just took our clear glue and spread it out on a branch. and then we took a paintbrush and smeared it out just to make sure it was evenly applied on the branch. Then we found that tweezers was the easiest way to apply the static grass, and we just did it sideways to try and make it look like the needles were growing out of the branches. We did end up playing around with different techniques, and we also used our fingers here and there too. This is also pretty time consuming, but not as long as it was to put all the branches on. So that's what one of the branches looks like. You might have a technique that works better than ours, but that's the gist of it. It's not too difficult, and you can do this with kids or you can do this as an adult. We thought these would be really fun trees to add to a miniature Christmas village, but you can use them for whatever you want. So here on the right, you can see I'm adding flock, white flock, which is the sawdust mixture that I showed you earlier in the video. This is white stuff that I made as snow, and I'm just kind of testing it out here to see what the texture looks like or how well it actually sticks to my tree. I added a little bit more of acrylic white paint to kind of have something for it to dry on the tree. This didn't end up being my favorite technique for snow, so I wouldn't recommend it unless you sieved it really, really fine. It might turn out a little nicer than mine did. But ultimately, I ended up taking the textured snow, the pre-bought stuff, and dabbing it onto the tree in clumps, and that worked a lot nicer. So just for a quick comparison, here's the small tree. And then here's the larger one, and you can see the larger one, it looks more tree-like because there's more spaces between the branches. It generally turned out a little bit nicer than this one did, but it was still fun, and I still have it in my little village. I think it looks good. This tree has a different technique for the snow. It is a lot of white acrylic paint with just a little bit of textured snow. So even if you don't have textured snow, that would still work well. And for the final touches, if you have craft scissors or even eyebrow scissors at home, you can take those and go in between the branches and just trim stuff up to make it look a little neater. And that's it. Here are our two trees in their final form in our little miniature village. We were quite happy with the way they turned out. Thanks for watching.